Welcome to Small Business Big Dreams, where every episode is a new journey into the world of entrepreneurs who are daring to dream big. In this corner of the internet, we're going to celebrate the innovation and the perseverance it takes to turn small ventures into booming successes. These small businesses aren't just places to shop, they're actually hubs of creativity and passion, each with its own amazing story. From the mom and pop shops to the innovative startups, we're going to explore it all. You'll meet the faces behind the brands, hear their stories, and maybe even get inspired to start your own venture. Whether you're a longtime local or new in town, come along with me for the ride and let's celebrate the backbone of our communities one small business at a time. Now let's dream big and spread some love for our local heroes. All right, well, welcome back to another week of Small Business Big Dreams. As always, I'm your host, Eric Bull, and today we're not talking to you about one business. We're actually going to talk to you about 45 different businesses. And I am here with Jason and Tracy. Now I'm going to screw it up. See, I told you it was going to happen. Goiki. Shit.
It's okay.
Of Craft Collective in Palatine, where they're actually supporting 44 other businesses within their business. Welcome, guys. I'm excited to hear all about this today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. All right. So which one of you is going to give us the Craft Collective elevator pitch?
You want me to? Okay.
Go for it. Let's do
So
it.
Craft Collective, as you said, is many small businesses within one small business. We house handmade items from local vendors. So all of our vendors are within a few hours of the store, and they rent space and sell their items in our store.
Very cool. 44 of them. That's crazy. The fact that you find a way to even keep that straight is super interesting.
Yep.
I definitely want to know about that.
Lots of spreadsheets.
And notes everywhere.
We get out of corporate spreadsheets to do more spreadsheets and work more hours. Got it. Okay. All right. Let's before we dive into the business itself, tell me a little bit about you guys. What's your background, and then how did you guys decide to start Craft Collective?
Sure. So Jason still has a regular full-time job in addition to his
Bless your soul.
In addition to also helping a lot with Craft Collective. We did actually recently, just a few weeks ago, move to a larger location around the corner from our previous small location. So he did a lot of physical labor in the month of August to get the new spot ready. And he does a lot of background stuff as well. So I previously worked in park districts for over 10 years. And I do have an education background, which
Very
I
cool.
do still use a little bit. I do 2 mornings a week at a local preschool by us. But then my main job is to run the store. Some of the vendors do work the store as well. So I do not have to work physically in the store every day, but I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes
Very
and,
cool.
getting more vendors and things like that. So, I had started crafting. I mean, I'd been crafting, doing scrapbooking and things like that.
Yeah.
All my life practically. But during COVID, we started our own small business, Homemade by Tag, doing some crafts and things like that. And that helped when I was furloughed from my job during COVID.
Man.
And then after COVID, we started getting into, well, actually, I guess kind of during COVID, we started
Towards the
getting
end,
into some retail stores because we didn't know about this retail option of selling your items in someone else's store. So we started there and started in a bigger chain location and branched out into 3 of their stores with our items. Then we started learning about these smaller shops. And so spaces are more manageable as far as, inventory and things like that. As well.
Overhead.
Yes.
Oh, God.
As well as rent was more manageable because the spaces were smaller. So once we started getting into those places, we were like, this is really interesting. Palatine doesn't have anything like this. We live in the town that our store is in. So it's important to us to, support the local businesses and be part of that community. So we had to get to a point with my previous job where I was vested in my retirement and all that fun stuff. So
yeah, you gotta
we
get
couldn't
the perks.
exactly.
Yeah.
So we had a timeline of we couldn't do anything until a certain point. And so if the small spot we were looking at was still open, we were going to go for it. And we did. And we opened on December 2nd of 2022. And then just like I said, August 20th, we opened in our new larger spot this year.
2 years later and
Almost.
expanding.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. When our first space was 400 square feet.
Including an office.
Pretty small.
Whoa, that is real small.
Our vendor booths were, 1.5 feet deep, 3 feet wide. They're basically just like an industrial shelf.
Okay.
And So as we were, interviewing prospective vendors at that point, a lot of people were like, this is a little small for us. And we're like, well, hopefully, we're going to do well here and be able to expand. And then, we signed a 2-year lease to start with. And as we were starting to look around, because our lease is coming up here, we were like, there's a nice spot right around the corner and it's 4 times as big. So it gives us the option to bring in larger vendors and give our vendors more space. When we announced to our vendors that we were moving, every single one of them came with us. Many of them expanded. And in our store, we have 2 options. So we have what we call the rental vendor. Those are the people that get a big space, anywhere from 3 to 6 feet. They work 1 day a month with us. And then we also have the retail option, which is just people who have smaller amounts of stuff and want to just sell 1 or 2 things. We even had a couple vendors that were in that option move up to full rental spaces with us, which was pretty cool. I think it's a testament to what Tracy's been able to develop and curate. And because our vendors work, it does truly become a collective for them. They get to experience the customers, they get to interact with the customers, find out, what the customers want to see. We've had a lot of vendors that have, after speaking and doing special orders for customers, start bringing in new product into their spaces. And plus our new space now also gives us the option for what we call like make and takes or
workshops,
pop-up
events,
like that.
Yeah.
So our
takes, I like that. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So our first one's coming up here in September, but our goal is to have 1 or 2 a month, which will be a great option for people to do events and do fun stuff versus just going out to the bar or going out to dinner, that kind of stuff. Some more interactive stuff you can do with your friends or that kind of stuff.
There's such a huge demand for that.
Yeah, and the fun part is it's our vendors that are doing the workshops. So our first one that's coming up is a macrame person that we have in the store. So she's teaching about an item that's in the store already. So the vendors will get to teach people how to make things that they already make themselves and sell. So
yeah, guys, I'm cheating. I pulled it up on my computer here. So what's it? Macrame pumpkins? Okay.
Yep.
Can you give us what? I have no idea what that means.
So macrame is comparable to crochet.
Okay.
But it's a fabric fiber art. So it's like yarn, string, things like that.
Cool.
And I don't actually know the exact process because I am not the person behind them. But our vendor's name is Mary, and she has several items in the store. There's various things you can do. So she's doing pumpkins for the workshop, but like wall hangings, and she has keychains and all kinds of other fun things that she does with this style. So for this workshop, people get to choose the colors for their pumpkins and things like that. So we will continue working with more vendors going forward and getting more of these off the ground. But this is our first one in the new store.
You guys, and I know we're teasing you on this. So if you guys were interested, by the time you guys are hearing this event specifically is already passed. It's actually coming up a week from after recording this. But I'm reading this. It's $35 a person. That's not too bad. They make 3 pumpkins, snacks and some refreshments. I mean, come on. I mean, $35, that's a round of drinks for me and my wife somewhere.
Right.
And it's like, I'm like, really? I just drank a $20 cocktail. It's like, all right. Plus it's like, I know me and my group of friends are always looking for something. It's like to your point, like, I just don't want to go out and drink. Like, I'm so over that. Like, it's like, what can we do? And I think there's just from all kind of different, you see these kind of these arcade bars open up, which again, it's kind of associated around drinking, but at least there's something to do, or these more pop-up kind of more events. Like I know, and it's like, it's such a catch-22 because it's a lot of breweries are hosting these. It's like, but again, it's like, I just don't want to sit and drink. Right. It's like, I want to do something. I want to have an experience. I want to have a story. I want to, it's just like, but.
And the other part about the workshops is, so this one in particular is going from 3 to 5. So we timed it that way so people could still go to dinner or do something after if they wanted to, because there are many restaurants and bars in Palatine that they could go, eat at. So they could continue their night if they want to. We also give all attendees a coupon for the store, and we will reopen the store after the workshop, so they get exclusive shopping time as well as a
VIP
discount if they buy
treatment.
something that day. So that's included in the the $35 for that workshop or whatever the price is going forward.
I know we've kind of like alluded to it, but you guys are in Palatine, and I love. My mom actually lives out in Palatine. I love it around there. The food scene's really, really good. The walkability of Palatine's incredible.
Nice, yeah.
The downtown area is great.
Yeah.
We've been very fortunate in the last year and a half or so to get 2 brand new high-end pizza restaurants opening up. Pizza Bella and Tivoli, both great options. Tivoli is actually next door to us.
You gotta like partner with them, like have them like walk some pizzas down for our event, or just bring me pizza.
And there's more development happening in downtown as well. There's a business in our strip that's adding a high-end wine bar to their shop. It's called Cook, Cork, and Fork, and so that will be open before the end of the year. So that will bring in a different option for people as well, rather than just going to a bar.
Yeah, oh my God, please. Yes.
Right.
For anybody who knows Palatine, can you kind of describe the area, what part? You're in the downtown area, right?
Yeah, we are in the downtown district. So we are 3 blocks from the train station. We're right, in the heart of it all. So.
Yeah, and like you said, it's a very walking downtown.
Oh, it's so walkable.
It is a little bit more spread out than some of the other downtowns in the area, so you do need to, come and walk. But it's only a few blocks, wide, so it's not a huge spread out area.
Burn some of those calories after a big old pizza. Right.
So yeah, I would say there's maybe 6 blocks or so that like most of the businesses are in, but. There's a downtown business association that Jason's actually the president of.
Oh, shout out. All right.
And so there are there around 30 businesses in the Downtown Business Association? Sorry. There's about 30 businesses in the Downtown Business Association. And so we are part of that as well. And they do events throughout the year as well to, promote all of the things that Downtown Palatine has to offer.
Very cool. Yeah. And you did exactly what they all do. You want to talk to him. So you can move the mic. That's totally cool. But I just need you into the mic. So all good. All right. So kind of some like nuance stuff. So Craft Collective, is there, it seems kind of self-explanatory, but is there a story behind that or why you chose that name?
I think we came up with like 3 or 4 different name choices, and we asked our group of friends what they liked, and we kind of all settled on Craft Collective. And the reasoning behind it, I think, is just to the fact of that we are a collective of people who make and are artists. So we were like, it's kind of the combination of, both worlds, the crafting world and then the collective world being together. We, our tagline is a creative marketplace. So I think that's just kind of how we came to be. And
was there like a ridiculous like runner-up name like that was totally like off the wall or funny?
I don't even really remember.
Yeah, I think
We'd
I
have to
I
go
don't.
back 2
Yeah,
years
I
in
don't.
the chat and look to see
I
what
don't
we
remember
sent
because
them.
it was decided pretty quickly. Everyone's like, this is it.
This was overwhelmingly the choice for sure when we were talking about it.
I love it when it's that feeling. I hate it's just like it just fits, right?
Yeah.
So my listeners are gonna hate me that I'm gonna do this because I do this all the time. So I'm super judgmental on the lettering choice of like what the shorthand of it would be, right? And I love CC.
I do too. I like the alliteration.
Craft, I just like the way you can brand with that and the way the 2 letters work together. It's like, I actually interviewed somebody earlier in the week and theirs was WW, which is one of my other favorites. And it's just like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, because people love to shorten everything, right? So it's like, what are they going to do to the name of your business? How are they going to write it? How are they going to say it? Like, it's like, it's like you go from like, well, you named your son like Anthony, but everyone's going to call him Tony. It's like, it's just going to happen. So it's like, all right, what's the name of your business, or how are they going to shorthand it?
Right.
But I love what you can do with that CC logo, because I'm right now I'm looking at your Instagram. So I see that CC and I love that.
Yeah. And we actually have, so one of our vendors is with laser cut wood and acrylic and things. And so we commissioned from her the CC logo, and it's right on the wall when you walk in the door.
That's so
out of colored
cool.
acrylics
Love
in
that.
our colors. So it looks really cool.
Kind of a more like I'm interested type question is everything you guys are all your vendors crafts or is there artists as well? I know there's a differentiation there.
Yes.
They're both. So.
Yeah, all of it. So the way we describe to people what we're looking for is hand designed, hand enhanced,
and handmade.
So we're not looking for, third party sellers. We're not looking for things that people have purchased wholesale and are reselling.
Okay.
We are looking for things that people either designed and then used a machine to cut out, which is actually my stuff. I use a Cricut machine. Laser cutting obviously is used by a machine, 3D printed, that kind of stuff still counts to us because someone is designing it and, putting things together to make the final product. We do have artists. We have a photographer. We have an acrylic artist. We have a couple of people who do watercolor items. So we do have that type of art as well. We have several people who do things with fabric. So taking the fabric and hand making it into various items. We try to cover all those bases. With the new space, we have larger booths available. So we are currently working on trying to find a furniture refinisher or upcycler. So we're not looking to just, resell antique furniture, but someone who, gives it a new life or makes it into something else. So that's our next goal of someone to find.
It seems like such a kind of a up and coming thing-ish. Mm-hmm. Like and I think too with how crappy new furniture for the most part is today.
Right.
It's like you spend a fortune on something that's literally going to break in a few years. You just know it's just, and then you go find a piece of furniture from the 1930s and it's going to outlive you.
Right.
Like,
it's solid. It's solid wood. And so, people who go through and refinish it and restore it and bring it back. So, like Tracy said, that's our next goal is to find some of those bigger vendors.
Those take a lot of space.
They do. And we fortunately have that space now.
That's
so
cool.
it's.
And then also the refinishing of things or repurposing of any items into other items helps, keep things out of the landfill and things like that too, which is great for everybody. So
I have a buddy, he does 3D printing with his own filament he makes from melted down plastic.
I've seen videos of that.
So
that's
he goes
cool.
and collects plastic from wherever his own plastic goes in places and melts it and makes his own filament and then 3D prints stuff out of it. It's he's like, it's labor intensive and people sometimes freak out about his pricing. And then when he gets the hard part is educating the customer, right? Like
100%.
Like how much work goes into it. And then again, like the purpose behind it, like he's like, it's a lot of work, but it's also like helping the world, helping the environment. Or at least it's keeping plastic out of the garbage, the ocean, whatever. And then it's like, and then you can tell like the light bulb goes off. It's like, oh, it's like, yeah, but if I have to do this every single time, it's like, it's tough, but I mean, in any business, right? Educating the customer.
And that is the hardest part actually. And you bring up a good point because we do offer our vendors the option to have a meet the maker, like little bio in their booths.
Okay.
And some of them have been able to kind of put some of that messaging out there if they have something to say about that, or if they have a way to describe, their items or their process. But in a retail setting, customers don't necessarily ask a lot of questions about items.
Can I help you? No, stay away from me.
Right. Where like vendors who are used to doing craft fairs and craft shows, you get a lot more one-on-one time talking to the customer. Not always still, but more than you get in a retail store. So that's something that we're constantly working on, trying to balance getting some of that information across. And because anything handmade, customers are surprised at the price a lot of times. And they don't think about the behind the scenes steps that have to be done to make that product. So they assume it should be Amazon prices or Target prices or whatever. And it doesn't.
Amazon, it's cheaper. If one more person tells me that, I swear to God.
Yes,
right?
Or this Temu crap that's going around and all of that. So that does make things harder. But we have a good group of loyal customers that really understand what we're trying to do and really appreciate what our vendors do, I think. And so we do have several customers that come in on a very regular basis because they know the vendors are bringing in new things all the time. And they want to see, what's next and what's new from them. So
I've got a very interesting story I want to share with you too. So I did this project a year or two ago. I actually worked with a consignment somewhat similar model to your guys' thing, but a little different. But what I did for them, I worked with all the different, whether they were kind of artists or like most of these were like upsellers. It was more in like that furniture side of it. but I made videos of them making their product, and then they put QR codes at their booth, and people could scan the QR code and see. Like some of them just wanted to tell their story, but some of them they got to see the thing being made. It was so cool.
Yeah, and a lot of our vendors actually are very active on social media, so they do post videos of themselves making stuff, which helps to to further that story of why my item costs $10 and you can buy something similar to it for $5 at Target. But it's like, first of all of mine are, one of a kind. There are, nothing in our store is there's two of, because they're all handmade.
Right.
So you have,
they're all a little bit different,
different stitching or coloring or, all that kind of stuff. And, you think we do a good job of attempting to educate the customers as they come into the store, explaining what we are, especially to our new customers. We have, our 5-second elevator pitch that we give to each one that walks in, and
5 seconds. That's all you get, though.
You don't get a lot.
You're right. You got to move fast because they don't actually.
Everything's handmade. How can I help you?
Right.
They're like, okay, thanks, and then that's it. But some of them do want to hear more, and when the vendors are working, we give them name tags with their name on it, and then it says vendor. So some customers will say, hey, what is your booth, or where's your stuff? And then it gives the vendor a chance, because not all the vendors want to, push their items on people. But if a customer asks about it, it gives them a little bit more comfortability to start talking about their item. And sometimes that results in a sale for them, which is great. But also it just gives the customer more information. It makes them feel welcome. And then hopefully then they come back because they liked, their experience with us.
I also think it's funny. It kind of almost goes hand in hand of like, people don't want to like just go out and drink anymore. People don't want to buy things from companies that don't have a story.
Right.
It's like, I think there's a huge change around that. And especially in a product based, like, it's like, are you, like, what are some of the bigger brands that blew up? Like, what's the socks one? Like, with like, buy a sock, they give a sock kind of thing. Like they all have Bombas.
Yeah, and Tom's shoes,
they all
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, they all have kind of store or a mission. It's not just, hey, I'm trying to make really cheap shit and like sell it to you.
Right.
It's like, but not not that also everyone's in the business to make money too at the end of the day. But if they have something they really stand behind, or it's just. They, or it's a conversation piece, right? Like, you have a table and it was handmade by this guy from the mountains of Norwegian, of a monk that never left the caves for 16 years to make this, it's like people love a good story too. Right. It's like, but yeah, those are the extremes.
And that's too, like, part of our, plan of staying local with our vendors. So we say everyone's within a few hours. We do have a few in Wisconsin and things like that.
Very
but
cool.
We've had lots of customers ask us what local means, or where is, what do we consider local?
Yeah,
so
that's a good
I have to
question.
update it for the new store with our new vendors, but we do have a map that we had at the old store of where everyone's located. And we actually have almost 10 or so vendors from Palatine itself. So people really like that, story behind it as well. And one of our vendors is a wood vendor who does like wood turned bowls, and he actually uses trees from Palatine.
Wow.
And he's a Palatine resident. So we have a sign up about that. So some of those stories people do really like about the items.
So I don't write with a pen very often, but I was at this craft show, and this guy made pens from the wood from dead trees he found in the forest. I was like, I don't care. I don't use a pen, but this is really cool. And they looked awesome.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, I'm a sucker. Yep, I got it. But it was just so cool to see, like, he's like, yeah, and I go through, these different woods and stuff and find down trees, and I make pens from them. I was like, dude, that's just awesome.
Yeah.
Love stuff like that. Let's talk a little bit more on the business side of it. What was like, so you started in 22, December 2nd, 2022.
That's when we opened, yes.
Okay. And so obviously it started before that. A lot goes into it. What were some of the very early on challenges you faced?
Well, getting this new store actually ready, right? Because I was still working my regular job in November. So we took over the space.
November 30th.
Yeah. We took over this space November
Oh, wow.
1st, right? And so, or October?
Yeah, no, it was November
1st. So the whole month of November, I was working my regular job. We also have a toddler. So he was one at the time.
Yep.
Because he's 3 now. And Jason was working his full-time job. And so I was trying to get vendors. He was getting the space ready, all while working and having a child. So that was probably the biggest challenge. And also just convincing vendors to take a chance on us, because we obviously had, other than being a vendor ourselves, we had no background in running a store or anything like that. So I was terrified going into it. Jason is an optimist, so it balances me out, because I am definitely not an optimist. So I was like, this is not going to work. No one's going to do this. Like, no one's going to take a chance on us.
We hosted some vendor open houses at the space, and literally we had one shelf in the middle of the space. We're like, this is the shelf you can get if you want to rent a shelf from us. And they walk into this store and they're just like, okay.
So it was a lot of talking and explaining, and like one of the vendors is one of my good friends, so obviously like that was a little bit easier. I mean, she still took a chance on us, but of course, it was a little bit easier to talk to her about that, and she is still with us in the store. She's actually the one working today.
Shout out,
right. Shout out, Christina. But over time, obviously, we've gotten a little bit more of a reputation now. But yes, that was probably the hardest part, is convincing people to bring their stuff and sign a 6-month contract with us. And, we knew what goes into signing a contract. We've done the math. We've done all those steps on the backside as well, because we've been a vendor. So people did like that we at least understood their side and still were doing their side of it other places. So I think that helped a little bit, maybe make people feel a little bit more comfortable in the fact that at least we understood that part. Obviously, there are no guarantees when you open a business. Even if you have previous experience, you can't guarantee that your business is going to be successful, and we still can't. But we, over time now, I think have shown people how much time we are willing to put into it, how much work we put into advertising, posting on social media, which is one of the most important things you can do. We do a vendor newsletter every month, so we give them a breakdown of the things we've done to advertise the store, the money, what we've spent money on, things like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and then once we opened, it was just getting people in the door, right? Like,
course. The important part.
Well, right. And
customers.
Our space was previously owned by a different store that's still in Palatine. They're called Foxglove Cottage, and they almost 2 years before we opened, they had moved to a larger space about a block away. But even until when we moved, people still were coming in thinking we were Foxglove Cottage. And
it's not a bad thing.
It's not. They wouldn't always stay when they realized we weren't.
Yeah, no,
but we would always tell them where Foxglove was, and they would go, there instead, which is totally fine. And we partner with Foxglove on some events and things like that. They're part of the DPPA. But so some of it was by accident that we had some people in the door in those first, months and stuff like that. And then obviously we were doing a lot of, paid advertising on social media and things like that to get our name out there. So yeah, I think for me, those were the biggest challenges. I don't know if you have anything different.
I think, number one, we wanted to open before Christmas, because
no pressure.
In retail, January is the slowest month of retail.
Yep.
So we knew if we could get open before Christmas that we could at least get some people in for holiday shopping.
Okay.
And then we purposely set it up so that our anniversary is in January, because we called December our soft opening month, so that we could push our anniversary to January to help boost January.
So we do a celebration then every year in January.
Right. Yeah. Which helps for that. So getting open before Christmas. I think the other biggest challenge we had was trying to figure out how to take everything that we had learned from being a vendor and trying to make us a better owner. Because we've been in so many different stores the couple of years previous, we knew what we didn't like. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't doing that to our vendors. So trying to figure out...
Can I ask like a couple specifics, like what you mean?
Marketing for sure.
Marketing, number one. The stores that we were in just weren't doing marketing. They were more worried about finding new vendors than they were finding customers. So marketing was a big thing. And then they were very corporate based. So to try to get a hold of someone when you had an issue was nearly impossible.
Yeah, yep.
And on the store level, the managers didn't have the authority to make decisions. It was that kind of stuff was frustrating. And then just the lack of communication. you would try to get a hold of someone to get questions answered or deal with an issue, and you couldn't. So we really tried hard to instill that, you know, we were going to be very active on social media.
You have to be.
Right.
We also ask our vendors to assist with that. So we don't expect them to do any paid advertising for the store, but we ask them to post regularly about the store or interact with our posts, because on social media, interaction is
Engagement.
is the biggest part. So it's actually written in our contract that we need our vendors to actively participate, and it doesn't have to be a business
page. Do you
page.
define what active means?
We don't.
Well, we kind of do. So anytime they're in the store, either dropping off new items or
that.
working the store, we ask them that they have to do a post
about
and
it.
Tag the store.
So tag the store, and, you know, grab a few items throughout the store, set them up in a little display, and take a picture of
including
it.
your own items. Like you should be advertising yourself too.
Absolutely.
To do that, and then to just share our posts. So, you know, Tracy works very hard to take photos of everything in the store and just continuously rotate through it. But then she will tag all those vendors, you know, on Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
And so it's just having them share that, like it, comment on it, share it, because, you know,
it's the only way that people see it.
Right.
Right.
You have to break that, you know, the meta algorithm, and that's always a challenge.
Yeah. And that's another example of something that we took from other stores that we didn't like is, and I follow tons of stores like ours now. I keep finding more and more across the country because it's fun to learn from them.
Of course.
But I don't see a lot of them tagging the actual pages of the vendors. Now, not every vendor has a business page. So obviously we still put their name, but we don't have a page to tag, which is fine.
Yeah.
And that's not a requirement. But the vendors who do have pages, I am very careful to go through every post and get every vendor tagged that has an item in the posts that I'm making. So to me, that's important. As a vendor, I would love if more people would know when my items are in pictures from other stores. So they could be like, oh, I really like, you know, that thing there. Who makes that? And they can, you know, figure out what the items are and who makes them.
All right. Do you guys have a TikTok?
We do not. I feel like I'm too old to do it. I don't even
absolutely
understand TikTok.
So
I don't get it.
I know we didn't really get to talk about this. So like my day job, I work within a very big digital advertising company.
Okay.
If you're not doing TikTok, you are literally throwing money away.
The problem is, though, is that our customer base is probably between the ages of 30 and 70.
Yeah.
You just named the largest group of consumer on TikTok.
Really?
Mm-hmm. 30 to 52
right, we're gonna
is
have
now
to
the
look
largest
into it, I guess.
TikTok consumer.
Huh.
I guess the young kids probably don't like TikTok anymore
because it's not cool.
It's not
right.
cool.
So
what are they doing
Because
then?
the old people are using it now. So
well,
they
TikTok does there is not a better way to organically grow on social media than TikTok, and there's not a better way to, without paying, getting in front of people in your area that are into the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It can very easily go viral in front of the right people, and the next thing you know, you don't know how to keep people out your door. And that's all you got to do is post on TikTok, and it's the only social media left.
One of our newer vendors asked me about it recently, like, you know, when she moved in a couple months ago, and I
just
have
take the
not looked
videos you
into
make
it
and
yet.
just post them to TikTok.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Like
it doesn't have to be anything special.
don't overthink it.
Yeah.
No, you know, people think, oh, it's about dancing. That's long
Right.
gone.
That's
used to
because
be.
I'm not doing
It's
that.
not.
And no one wants to see it either, so it's fine.
I mean, literally just featuring it, but it has to be video.
Right.
And then it just all you feature a vendor every time. Just feature maybe a different vendor, a new product, just video.
Okay.
And you don't have to be in it.
Okay. Yeah.
But you should.
That's okay. Yeah.
But I would highly, highly recommend doing TikTok. Because on Instagram is the hardest social media to grow on.
It is.
No question.
Yeah. We are by far have more followers and things on Facebook and interactions than we do on Instagram. Yeah. Despite me posting exactly the same.
And I have a love-hate. I think Facebook is still the best free platform for like a business page. I think there's still ways to grow and like get engagement. And because the problem is, even if somebody hears about you somewhere else, right? The first thing they're going to do is check your socials. They're not even going to go. They're not more than likely today. They don't even go to your website first. They go,
which is good because we don't actually
have a website. Currently, yeah.
Wait a minute, really?
Well, we had a free Google one, and then you don't get to do that anymore. So we haven't done a paid website yet because we don't sell our items online yet.
So you know, e-commerce.
Right. Like we have goals of having that eventually, but
because we can integrate it with our POS system. But it's.
Would you use Square?
No, we use Consigner Access.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Because I mean, what like a landing page for what, $10 a month, if that?
Yeah, I mean.
Honestly, no one's even asked about, do you have a website? So I'm not even sure because we're not selling things. I don't know like how much people would actually go to a
we keep
website.
our Google business profile up to date. So
I
we're posting.
Say you have to. Yeah.
Right, we're posting pictures in there.
Will get trashed if you don't.
Right, so we're posting pictures in there on a regular basis. We're getting reviews from customers on our Google business profile. But yeah, we don't have a website. What I would do
then is have your vendors that do have actual websites link your Instagram or Facebook on their actual website, because one, that'll boost your SEO in general, but then two, it just helps, again, they find the vendor, great, they're here at this store. But
and one of them I know, so actually the vendor Christina who's working today, she has our store as a pickup location for when people place an order on her website. Okay. And the vendors do have that option that they can drop different vendor yesterday dropped off items that someone's coming to pick up. So they do sometimes coordinate their orders, but it's not always through a website. But yes, that's something to look into for sure.
If you guys are okay, I'm really interested in the business model. So if I'm looking to be a vendor there, if you don't want to talk about numbers, totally cool. That's but so is it I'm renting the shelf and then whatever I want to do selling wise on the shelf, like that's up to me, or is it more like consignment?
No, so because we have the two options. So the rental option, we'll start there. Basically, you're renting a space. So we have, I think, 6 different size spaces. The smallest being 1.5 feet deep by 3 feet wide, and then which is basically just a shelf on a wall,
right?
Going all the way up to a 7 by 7, basically. So 7 foot by 7 foot space in the store that you can
like floor space, and I can put like a table.
Right, you can put tables, shelves, all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
Our smaller spaces have the slat wall behind them, so you can get shelving units, hanging stuff, all that, anything like that.
Use the vertical space because the store is it 10 foot ceilings?
11 foot ceilings. So use your vertical space to go all the way up. And then, so then the vendors have the option to either rent shelves from us or bring in their own, to basically build your space how you want it, how you want to display your items.
Okay.
And then we take a small commission, based on your sales.
Okay.
Because we don't charge an exorbitant amount for rent. Because basically our business model is if you're successful in selling stuff, then we're successful because we're getting that small amount of commission. So it encourages you to have your booth full all the time. It encourages you to constantly change out your product so that you follow the seasons and that kind of stuff. So we tell vendors, like, we want your booth full because we want you to sell stuff, because
you don't sell stuff, we don't make
money.
Right,
we're not making money. Right, so that's what it comes down to. And then on the other option, what we call a retail vendor, is, again, that is for people who have like 1 or 2 things. So maybe
or small things.
Yeah, or so maybe you some of our vendors, like the one lady does keychains and bows. So she makes kids bows and keychains. Right. So she doesn't
section of a wall. Yeah.
So she doesn't have room, or she doesn't have the product to
fill
a shelf.
Yeah.
And then for those people, we just take slightly more commission on the sales of those items.
So that is more consignment.
That's right.
They don't pay monthly rent. They don't have to work the store. There's a few less requirements of the people that are commission only, consignment only.
And we wanted to offer that because we have been in spaces like that before, where we only have a small, Tracy only has a small amount of her homemade by tag stuff in that store versus a full rented space. So, and
the commission part too. So we've also been in both types of stores where they take commission and where they don't. And we prefer stores that take commission because, for the same reason that Jason just 100%. Said, is we feel like they're more
bought into the
they
program.
Got skin in the game.
Right.
I want that. Yeah, 100%.
Right. And that's what we really wanted to, again, push to our vendors is that we're in this together.
Right.
Like if you're not if your booth is empty, you're not selling anything, we're not making any money. So it's not working for us. So again, the fuller you keep your booth and the fresher you keep your items, the more you're going to sell. So then we make the money on that also.
I love that.
And it so far has been successful for us. Almost 2 years in, 2 years in and growing. So I think it works.
Yeah.
How because this is coming from my retail world life. How are you controlling? Is everything actually like digitally inventoried, or are you just
so our POS
holy cow, the amount of SKUs.
Yes.
There's, I think the last time I looked, we had
I'd have to pull it up. I don't know.
17,000 items we've had go through the store since we opened.
Because like chills
because so like some of our vendors,
not all of it is currently active in the store at the same time.
It's still
so it's because a lot of our vendors, they might have 4 items that are the same, but they're different colors.
Right.
So from an inventory perspective from them, because they're not there every day, they want to know if, red sold and a blue sold, so they know to make another one.
Right.
And they don't always have to come back to the store. So we tell our vendors, you can be as specific on your item as you want to so that you know what's selling and what's not selling. And then each vendor has their own profile inside of our consignor access POS system. So
they can put their own stuff in?
They put their own stuff in. They enter their stuff in the store. They print the labels at the store. And then, when the customer comes up to check out, we scan the items and it automatically gets applied to all the accounts. So from a
That's sweet.
From a CFO perspective, it's great because I don't have any monthly reconciliations. I just at the end of the month I run the report. It gives me the amounts
now, not mine.
Right. It gives me
here's all the checks we need.
Right. It gives me it gives me the amounts to write the checks out for, and it's all very well.
And rent comes
organized.
out first, so then their payouts are after the next month's rent. So like that's all reconciled right away as well within Consignor Access. Consignor Access is made for stores like this.
That's so cool.
And there's several that we used it in from the vendor side prior to opening the store. So we knew when we were doing the store that is what we wanted to go with because we had used it on the vendor side and we knew how user friendly it was there. And in our, Jason did a webinar testing thing with one of the people there and it was user friendly on the owner side as well. So, and they have multiple levels. So that helps for a small business that we didn't have to pay the highest level. We can get what we need, at a mid-level for right now. And we could always go up if we need to. And there's a few features that we don't currently have that it's not currently bothering us not to have. So it saves us, a little bit money that way, but
every dollar counts.
Right.
It does.
But it does make a lot of things easier for the vendor side of it. The vendors can go to their own profile, add their stuff. They can see their sales in real time from their phone or computer or whatever. Their inventory, they can see real time. So it helps them, as Jason said, for the restocking part of it.
It's also great because I don't have to have a server that holds all of our sales data. It's all stored on the cloud. So it's all...
This guy knows his tech. I love it.
Yeah. And, so that really helps us. And one of the other things that we do too is we require our full rental vendors to carry liability insurance, which helps us to defer some of our insurance costs because we in our contract we write we're not liable for anything that happens to your merchandise in our store. Now we will do everything in our power to prevent shoplifting and loss and anything like that, but we are not liable for any of your products. So from a financial aspect for us, our liability insurance comes down then too, which in today's era liability insurance is probably one of the biggest scams out there.
I had to get insurance for a one-day event.
Yep.
Don't get me wrong, we had a lot of moving vehicles and stuff, but the amount of money that cost me almost made the event not happen.
It's very hard. And luckily we, through vendors that we've worked with in the past, we have found some very good online options for
handmade items.
Right. That are, it's small. They aren't spending thousands of dollars a year on liability insurance because they don't have much stuff. So they don't have to pay for, oodles of backstock, but it just, it all just helps in that.
What if
game
like
thing.
I just don't care? Like if I happen to lose a couple get ruined, like
we do not let you in the store if you don't, as a regular vendor, as the rental vendor, we do not allow them in the store. The consignment option vendors don't have insurance with the store, liability insurance to be in the store, but they have much less inventory in the store.
Right. I bet you could even do where they sign like a release of some kind, right?
Well, they sign their contract that says we still have in their contract that we're not liable for their items, and if something were to happen. But we still, I mean, all of it's the same. Our security, we have a security system, we have cameras, we have all that stuff. That you're not being
you're doing due diligence,
right.
But you're. And for the record, our listeners, none of this is legal advice. So contact a lawyer before you do anything, or your insurance agent.
Right.
This is just all very opinionated, angry insurance. We all hate it.
The other piece of the insurance, though, is it as a vendor, it does. As I learned from Jason being a vendor and starting to have, inventory at home and things like that as well, it helps protect you there also.
Yeah.
So it doesn't just protect our items that are in the stores. And we've explained it that way to a few people who have kind of pushed back on the insurance. And once you explain it that way, you're like, but you also have things at home, or you drive them to a show, or it covers all of those things as well. And
your homeowner's insurance won't cover.
No.
Right.
If your home burns down and you have $5,000 worth of merchandise in your store, you're out. Mm-hmm. So it's a.
And that's also, I would also recommend talking to your tax person, your accountant, whatever, because if you're storing enough stuff at home too, that is also considered office space.
Right.
So make sure you're looking into that properly with your tax guy. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah, right.
All my listeners know I love devil advocate questions, so I have one for you guys.
That's
sure.
So what if a vendor isn't performing? Do you have stipulations around that?
We do, and we've had to, because we've learned.
We had it in from the beginning, but we have made some adjustments to our contract
because we also limit the amount of a specific item in our store to
category,
a type of
right. So we don't have 50 candle vendors in our store. We have 3. We have a clause in our contract that states that if you have an item that hasn't been stocked for 30 days, we have the ability to go out and find someone else to replace you with on that item. Mm-hmm. And then we also wrote into our contracts that we can basically give you a 60-day notice at any point to vacate the store, should we choose to.
So it gives you guys an out.
Right.
Yeah.
And the vendors actually have that same out. So they can also give us 60 days notice if they had a family emergency, or if something happened where they're like, we can't finish our contract. But we have had to enact that 60-day clause for a couple of reasons, various times. But it hasn't happened a lot, but it's happened a couple of times. And so, then we give them a letter and explain why and all of that. So
yeah, because I just figure with lowering the rent now at the commission side of it, well, if someone's taking a shelf space and they're not making you guys any money, there's also that side of it, right?
Correct.
Like, there is, and that's the one of the biggest reasons that we've had to do it is because they just aren't stocking their booth, and it's not like we just come out of the blue and say, hey, okay, here's your 60-day notice, we're done with you. Right. We've had multiple conversations with them at that point and said, what can we do to help you get more product into the store? Mm-hmm. Or what can we do to help you sell more stuff? Because again, going back to that hard truth, or what we as a company want to be, we need you to sell product.
Yeah.
End of the day, like if you're not moving product, we're not making money, and we got a problem.
Exactly.
So
right.
Yeah, because that's so like I was because I'm coming at from more of the curiosity of the latter side of it. Like my shelf's full, I've got all this stuff, I'm super excited. 2 months go by, no one buys any of my shit, and it's like, well, it's cool, but it's just that's just not what they're buying. We
do also encourage so we have a 6-month contract. Another thing we learned at other stores where we had to sign year-long contracts is we felt trapped because if it wasn't going well, 6 months to us is more manageable, and we feel like you should at least give it 6 months because there are months that are going to be slow and that we can't do anything about that.
It just
example, July,
January.
June, January. The J months are typically slow.
The J months in the retail world tend to be the worst months. And so we, because we are a small business and we're bringing in small businesses, we try to show people what they're going to be committing to when they choose to be with us, so that they know up front what it's going to cost for them to be there, so that they can make that business plan on their smaller scale to be successful
and decide, with their family or however they need to decide whether it's going to work for them or not.
Yeah.
And fortunately, we've had no real vendors that have had to leave because they just aren't making any money. We've had some vendors leave because it is. Now we've only been in this for almost 2 years, but
you should know pretty quickly if a certain product's moving or not.
Right.
Yes, and everyone's definition of making money is different. Some people are happy to just cover rent and get a little bit of a check or whatever.
It's more just fun.
Some people would like X number of times their rent in a check. So everyone's version is different, and we don't try to change that. And if it doesn't make their level of success, then they do sometimes leave, and that's fine. But we do have, I didn't count before we came, but we have 7 or 8 that have been with us from the beginning. So they're in their 4th contract with us now. And we have several that are on their, 2nd and 3rd contracts. So, and we get obviously new people every time too. And you said there's some people
that went from like a shelf to much bigger spaces too.
Many of our vendors expanded outward. We actually had one vendor that started with us that ended up opening her own store down in Tinley Park.
That is what I wanted to hear. I was so curious. That
was pretty cool. She's no longer with us at the store because she now has her own store to run.
She also lived that way anyway, so it was harder for her to get to the store too. Yeah.
But it gave her the opportunity to try it out. She liked it, and her stuff sold well, and then she moved on and she opened up her own store. So that's
you guys are almost like an incubator. I love it.
Well, and there's several of those types of that word, incubator. McHenry has one.
We had them on the podcast.
Did you?
Yeah.
Batavia has a set of them as well. And so it's the same concept. There's several small businesses in one area that and those are cute. I haven't actually walked through them, but I've seen all the pictures and stuff that they're like a little shop.
Yeah, they're like 100 square foot little shops, and
they have to staff them themselves, right?
100%. Yeah, so basically it's very similar idea, just on a bigger scale. Small commitments, low cost, stuff like that, and it's with the full intent of an incubator, because you get 1 year and that's it. So, and then with the goal, like, you need now to move up and on,
right?
Because McHenry's trying to do is get them to take over the stores that space that they have. It's like, but great, let's tiptoe in, like dip your toe in, not tiptoe.
And I think isn't there a business in McHenry that started as the first incubator last year?
There's two of them.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
because they're in their second. This was their second year of the incubators in McHenry, right? Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Well, and the other side of it, I didn't even think about. I like is if you're looking to open another location in McHenry, so this gets you to test out the market there, and if there's a demand for it.
That's
And I was like, I never.
Well, and in McHenry and Batavia, they're both like on the river, so they both have river walks, and like, so it's a great spot for something like that.
It's beautiful. They did I don't know the Batavia one, but I know McHenry did a great job. It's the whole Riverwalk area they did. It was just fantastic.
That's nice.
Yes. Check out the podcast episode. It was really cool.
I will go back and listen to that one. I listened to a couple other ones, but I didn't get to that one. Yeah.
We got derailed.
Tangent.
It happens on here. Everybody knows it. All right. So we're 2 years in-ish, close, coming
almost,
up. What is something... We kind of talked about some smaller things, but I was just curious if there was anything else that you would have done maybe differently at this point.
Right now, no.
Yeah.
I don't think so, because we purposely started in the small space because, again, we wanted to try it out. 400 square feet. We signed a 2-year lease in that space because we were
wanting to make sure.
Well, and financially speaking, on our own financial level, that's what we could commit to at the time, and our intention was to always grow, and it happened.
And I think, sorry.
As I say, there's been very little things that I look back on now and say, I wish I would have done that differently, or not done, or that.
Yeah, well, that's a good problem to have.
It is.
And I know too, a lot of it, like I ask that question a lot on here, but it's like, without those mistakes though, you don't learn from them either, right?
Exactly.
Like, so it's like some of it's like, that sucked, but now I know I'm glad I learned it early versus like it being a bigger problem down the road.
Well, and there's little things for sure, like events we've tried that didn't work, or, you know, like we said, we've had to make some adjustments to contracts because we've learned, you know, we can't be maybe quite as flexible or quite as nice as we would like to be about certain things. It's business, right. Man. So that's been challenging for me specifically because working at a park district, I have 10 years of customer service background. Prior to that, I worked retail, you know, in all my high school jobs and things. But Jason working in the corporate world, it's not quite as customer service. Like you don't have to be quite as, you know, professional to everybody, and you don't have to let everyone, you know, treat you not nice and whatever. You can push back a little bit more in that world. And that is not the world I ever worked in. So he laughs, but he's like, I can't believe like sometimes how much you have to, you know, appease people you know, go out of your way to help people do things, and vendors or customers or whatever. But for me, some of it is because I know that if I don't do it, then it results in either not getting something in the store or not getting a customer to come back or things like that. Yeah. So I put that pressure on myself to try to, you know, keep people coming back in or keep vendors as happy as I can. But he has pushed me to set some, you know, boundaries, and we've gotten more procedures in place than we had in the beginning, and things like that we didn't start with because I didn't really know what they needed to be.
Right.
So we have a whole manual for working the store that I've developed. Yes, there is a procedure manual.
And we had to develop that kind of stuff because our vendors, the rental vendors, have to work one day a month. Most of them only work one day a month. So it's hard to remember everything you have to do. Number one, it's, you know, it's hard to remember all that stuff. And two, you're running a store with, you know, what equates out to about $40,000 to $50,000 worth of merchandise. Like there is a responsibility factor to that we have to follow the steps and the procedures so that we don't have loss, basically.
Yeah,
right.
Of course. Yeah.
And also developing procedures for our vendors can run sales on their booths whenever they want to. So I created a Google form for them to let me know about their sale. Because when we first opened, we were not full in December of 22. We had 13 vendors only. Okay. And the store was half empty. If you go back and watch our very first reel on Facebook, it was pretty sad looking compared to what we had. But we had an excellent month. We had a lot of sales because of Christmas and things. So that was great. But when we first started with, you know, 12, 15 vendors, they would just email me, hey, I want to do this. Hey, I want to do that. Well, as we kept growing, and now in the new store, I've even changed things a little bit more sometimes, but I can't keep track of 40 different or 44 different emails about this, texts about that, whatever. So it took a while to get people who were used to just texting or emailing me something into doing the forms. But we've gotten on a good path now where it's easier for me to keep track of Google Forms and things like that.
Yeah, of course.
So that helps a lot. And then,
well, it saves the he said, she said conversations, right?
100%. Because we've had enough of that. And
I told you it was this. I told you that. And like, I don't have a form for it. Where's the form?
Right.
And it's very black and white of like, yes, if I have time, I will definitely like ask questions, try to get clarification, but I don't always have time because if we're doing a store event and 30 of you are doing sales, I don't have time to nitpick each one. I will only do what's on the form, and that's what it has to be because I don't have the time to, you know, do that. But they get to pick. They can do sales on their whole booth, or they can choose certain items that are on sale. When we do store events, I limit it to whole booth only because the process to put individual items on sale is more intensive. So
so you're the one manually changing the sale prices?
Yeah. So the whole booth sale is very easy because I can just go in their profile quick, add the percentage and the dates and be done.
Yeah.
But when they do individual items, that's why I don't allow it. And that's one of the boundaries that I set is because you have to go to each individual item and change the price manually. And then afterwards, when the sale is over, you have to go back and change it back to the regular price.
Some of the pitfalls of that, the operating system that we use, but it's, you know, it is what it is.
And not that many vendors choose to do individual item sales on a regular basis anyway, so it's not too bad. But that's where the setting some limits has come in and helped a little bit, save some time.
Where do I want to go? Let's. Did you guys have like either like a mentor or someone just give you like a really good piece of advice as you were kind of deciding to start this up that kind of maybe sat with you that you would love to share with us?
I don't have anything specific.
Sure.
I mean, both of our families, our siblings, our moms, have both all been very supportive, and been regular customers of the store, which is wonderful. Jason's family mostly is in Wisconsin, so they aren't able to obviously do as much as far as shopping. But whenever Jason's mom comes down, she gets her own shopping time in the store.
VIP treatment.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
And then she came down one of the weekends before the new store and helped a lot. My uncle came and helped prior to opening the new store. Do some of the physical labor with Jason because there are things that I couldn't help with. And then my mother has helped a lot. She's currently watching our son while we're here, and she's helped a lot on that side of it, which is also very important because we need to not have a 3-year-old running around sometimes. And when you're doing physical labor and construction at the store, he can't be there for all of that. So we've needed help in more than one way. And I think our families really came through and helped us with that. But yeah, I mean, as far as like business, not really. I mean, honestly, like he's the one pushing most of that, being the positive one, being the one like, let's do this, let's try this. And if I have an idea, he's like, yeah, what if we try this? Or we do bounce things off each other a lot, and we can, go back and forth and try to tweak things or, change things a little bit and try to make something better, whether it's an event or how the store is set up, or now it's like, we're running out of the small spaces. So how do we change one of the bigger spaces to be more small spaces to fit it in? And so Jason does a lot of those pieces of it as well.
All the fun stuff.
The behind the scenes work.
On the flip side of it, if someone's looking to start a business, what piece of advice would you give them?
I think the biggest thing is make sure that you lay your business plan out fully and you vet it out. Just to make sure that you are prepared.
Words sounds like
that you are prepared, because not everything's going to go according to your original plan.
Right.
Never does.
Something's going to cost more than you thought it did, or there'll be an unexpected thing that comes up.
Right. And the other biggest thing is just be ready to pivot as quickly as possible, because you lay it out in your mind, you lay it out on paper, you think it's great, and then someone else walks in and says something and you're like, crap, that's a great idea. I wish I would have done that. I mean, I think that what Tracy was mentioning with the store layout, like we laid the store out because we thought, okay, we're going to have this many of all these different size vendors, and we found out quickly that people don't want the big space, or they don't want that size space. So we had to quickly pivot and change and relay everything out again so that we could, accommodate as many vendors as possible. So it's just
every time you say pivot, I keep thinking Friends in my head, and I know I'm
pivot.
Yes, we've had to pivot a lot in the last 2 years. I think my biggest thing would be don't go into it by yourself. I could not have done this by myself. And like I talked about family support, but mostly Jason. I could not have done all of this. I mean, first of all, to push me to actually do it, I obviously like having ideas. I'm too scared to have done it by myself, but also just all of the work that goes into it. I am doing a lot of work, but he's also doing a lot of work on top of the other things that he's doing for his regular job, which is not a 40-hour-a-week job. So, and obviously owning your own business is not a 40-hour-a-week job. Which all the small business owners that have ever been on here, I'm sure, talk
all
about.
All of them know.
Yes.
Yep.
So that is there's the jokes and the reels and the memes of, leaving the corporate world or leaving whatever job to work for yourself. And then you're like, and then I work all day, every day, 7 days a week. And it never ends.
I went from 40 hours a week to 300 hours a week.
Stick it to the man.
Exactly. And it never stops. Even when you're successful, you are still working that much. You're still putting that much into it. And, so you really need to understand what investment it takes. And it's partially a financial investment, but it's also a time investment. And it is hard to do even with a partner that is actively involved, because we have, we've seen lots of different types of businesses now coming through the store and things like that. And you can see that it is easier for people if they have other people supporting them.
Oh, 100%. You can only do so many things yourself, and
As much as we want to do everything ourselves, I would love to do everything myself. And it's not because I don't trust him to do it, but I just would love to be that independent. But it doesn't work that way. And it's better because there's both of us doing it. Yeah. And the collective piece is there's 44 other people helping as well, whether it's advertising or, like Jason said, we've taken ideas that vendors have given us and run with them because we don't know everything. As we said, this is our first business, retail business. And so granted, they've not necessarily had their own retail business either, but they're like, what about this that I tried or that, this store tried, or what about, have you guys ever thought of this? And we can't implement every idea that someone has, but there are several that have been put in over the couple of years now that came to us from vendors. We have not thought of every single event, every single thing that we've done. We work together with people and we encourage the vendors to ask us questions, give us ideas, and see if we can make it work.
It's like you got 44 employees.
So it's actually like having 44 managers because they manage their own space and they manage their own business. So it's kind of like having a management team of 44 people and then
you're the manager above them almost because they still are under you.
That makes me nauseous.
Which my previous job was supervising 50 part-time staff at a park district. So I'm used to managing that many people, but it is different because those were all kids mostly kids, and these are all adults. And, but yeah, I mean, they do come with some great ideas and some great questions that make us think of other ideas. And Jason is really good at, like, I think I told the vendor, Ken, that was working with me yesterday this, but like if I come and I'm like, oh, what if I want to, try this, or what if we want to do that? And like, if you give him a day to think about it, he's like, we could do it like this. And then we can get it implemented and get it going. Cause sometimes I only come up with half an idea and then, it needs to be finished, or I need a way to, like,
hey, this is what I want, but I need this behind the scenes.
Right. Perfect example is the macrame workshop. We have a Venmo for the store. Yeah. And so I made a Google form because we didn't want to pay for like Eventbrite or something like that because that takes fees. The fees are insane. But customers don't want to come in to register, and they don't even always want to call us to register. So we were like, what else can we do? So I came up with the idea of the Google form, but Jason was like, add the Venmo to it. So we got a Venmo registration for the class, and she did the Google form for the registration and paid via Venmo. So she didn't have to call us. She didn't have to come in. And so that worked perfectly. So that was the good last step that we needed for that to help it be successful.
The amount of fees everybody collects now just to collect money, it's just like
it's insane.
And then more fees to pay things. It's just like, oh my god.
That is one of the hardest things for small businesses. I'm learning that I didn't know, and he hears me complain about it all the time. Is like, oh, there's a fee for this now. Oh, this fee went up, and I'm like, this is why they all fail. Yeah. Because it's fees.
You're a fee on the front, a fee in the middle, and a fee on the back.
And then they add like
and then if it's a monthly fee, in about 6 months it goes up.
Yeah. Or they sometimes just add new fees in randomly because now one of our things is like
a fee for the fee.
Right. You're paying an extra $100 a year for whatever, and you're like, but I don't even use that, and you're still paying for it. Yeah.
That's I've seen more and more than ever cash discounts. You're paying in cash to get a discount because it's just like. They don't even want to deal with some of the software tools, and then because if you're not using it enough, it's more expensive to use it, and it's like come on, like you're nickel and diming the part of the world that needs the least nickel and diming.
Correct,
right?
It's like
go charge Target 10% to process credit cards. Don't charge us to do it. I don't care if our volume isn't there. Is it like
what,
no?
It's like, so what if my volume's not there? It's like then why does the 10% matter to you? Like
right?
Yeah, because it's not that much.
Right,
yeah.
But it
matters to us
right,
for sure.
Yeah,
like you said, every dollar.
God, it does. I told you the hour is going to way fly by. So as we kind of wrap up here, I want to do is I know you have some events coming up. You want to give a shout out what's coming up. So for the record, everybody, we're recording this on September 21st. So we're going to give you some October events coming up. You may have missed them. So if not, maybe they're coming up. So just stay tuned for all kinds of stuff. So shoot, Tracy, what we got coming on?
So starting in middle of October, on October 18th, it's a Friday night, we have a sip and shop that we call Witches Night Out since it's close to Halloween.
I love that.
We will have a themed drink available that Jason researched and found for us, our resident bartender over here. That is from 5 to 7, so that's actually extended shopping time at the store. Normally we close at 6, but when we do sip and shops, we stay open until 7. And then on October 20th, we do a couple throughout the year free family make and take things, little quick ones.
Yeah.
So for October, it's decorate a pumpkin, so they can have
Like
stickers.
one of those, like, little mini
one of the
pumpkin
little
things.
mini
Yeah,
pumpkins.
I love that's my kind of
Yeah,
guy. There we
and
go.
so
That's my
we
game.
have like fun Halloween stickers and things that they can put on their pumpkin. And that gets families in the store. We don't necessarily expect parents to then shop with their children in the store. So we give them coupons that they can then come back another day
time.
without their children or with their children if they want to. We do have children's items in the store. But and then on October 26th, which is a Saturday, we have the next Downtown Palatine Business Association event, which is trick-or-treating in downtown.
That's a big event.
This is only the second year that they've been doing it. Last year was the inaugural year of the trick-or-treating. We did not have it in downtown prior to that. So the DPBA board, Jason and his board members came up with that. And there was over 150 families that participated last year.
We weren't sure how it would be the first year, and it was insane. Everyone said that they bought one bag of candy and they had to quick run to this grocery store and get more because there were so many kids. So we're hoping for another great weather day for the 26th. And
it's either going to be gorgeous or absolutely horrific. There's
right.
never any in between.
No, it's either warm or it's snowing. Those are your two options. And then one final shout out. So with the DPBA, we have our annual holiday event, which will be November 22nd. It's the Friday before Thanksgiving. And that is the downtown-wide event. We'll have snacks, wine, go through displays, demonstrations from the stores.
The stores all stay open late.
So
there's like a whole downtown Palatine.
Yes,
thing.
yeah.
Cool.
So that goes from 5 to 9 on the 22nd of November. And it's a great opportunity to come out and see what downtown has to offer.
So much. I love downtown Palatine. It's just
there are a lot of things that even prior to living in Palatine, I didn't really know, was in downtown. And even the first couple of years living in Palatine, you have to actually walk around, to explore a little bit. You can't see it all from your car. You do have to get out and walk. But yeah, so Holidays on the Town is that event in November. And then we will have a few more in November and December. So watching our social media pages, which are both Instagram and Facebook under Craft Collective Palatine.
And coming soon, TikTok.
Apparently coming soon TikTok. So that's Tracy's goal before the end of the year is to get a TikTok. So yes, then we can plug the events on TikTok as well. But you can find all of the upcoming things there as well.
Awesome. Was there anything you guys were hoping to talk about, tell us about you or the business that we didn't get a chance to cover today?
I don't think so. It's really just, being able to be a collective and give all of these people who don't have an in-person platform to sell. I mean, many of them have their online Etsy's or websites.
Of course.
But giving them an in-person option to sell the stuff that they put their heart and soul into to make. So it's
hard for some people to do the setup and takedown of a craft show, especially same day. It is a lot of work. When I was doing them, I only did them at Christmas because I didn't want to deal with the work that goes into it on a weekly basis. But there are people who they just go to shows every week, right, or every weekend. So this is nice because they don't have to set up and take down all the time. They set up and it's there, and hopefully it sells. And it's
you got, depending on the event, you got weather conditions,
right?
Or you're one of 500 vendors, and it's just chaos.
Right.
I mean, and there's a good and bad to that. There's a lot of customers,
Yes.
but then you got to stick out within a whole different breed of crafting, and then I hear a lot about with security issues with that too. Within you got that many vendors, that many people walking around. When you close at 5 to come back the next day, I mean, are you leaving your stuff? You taking your stuff?
For
It's
things,
I've heard horror stories on some of that. So there's good and bad. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, people make their living off of doing craft shows, so you absolutely need them. But there are just some people who physically can't always do that. So this is a store like ours is another option for people like that as well, who would still like to sell their items. And I think the main thing, like you pointed out at the beginning, is that we are a small business who houses other small businesses. I know, I point that out a lot in our
business
advertising.
Inception.
Right.
And so I think it's important, and it's an important thing that we look for with vendors as well, as to continue working as a team.
Yeah.
We are not trying to do this by ourselves. We need you guys to do this. And so we try very hard to always be a team with them.
I can't believe I haven't asked this yet. Are you guys still, you have room for more vendors?
We do.
We do.
So you guys, and so if they were interested, if someone, a potential vendor listening, how is the best way to get a hold of you?
So they would send us an email. So our email address is craftcollectivepalatine@gmail.com.
Love
all
it.
spelled out. And so I have a whole information sheet that I send them with all the different options and requirements so they can determine if it works for them.
Yeah.
And then there's a link to our application there. And we have a Google form application where they can upload pictures because we do, like we said, we limit the categories in the store. So we do compare to what we already have so that we make sure we're not oversaturating any one category in particular.
Love it. And I know some crafters that are listening. So if that's up your alley, take a peek at that. Well, Tracy, Jason, thank you so much for Craft Collective.
Yes.
For joining us today. It's been a blast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. So you guys check them out. As always, I'll plug Instagrams, Facebooks. No website this time, but I'll give it all on there. Check them out. It's one of 45 small businesses in one little place with some really cool stuff. And as always, we shop local, we support small. And until next time, goodbye for now. And that wraps up another episode of Small Business, Big Dreams. Thank you for joining us. Please support us and these incredible small businesses by sharing this podcast with friends, family, and on your social networks. Spreading the word not just helps us grow, but more importantly, supports the dreams of our local entrepreneurs. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. But if you have a small business we should hear about, reach out to us on social media or our website. We would love to hear from you. Until next week, I'm your host, Eric Bull. Keep supporting small businesses, and goodbye for now.